Hey, come on. This is Owen EQ, and I am doing a special video that hopefully will be shorter than normal because I want to focus on something that is no longer true with the combat pets for the pet classes in EverQuest. That is, for me, a recent change because I was not present for the beginnings of this most current expansion right now. I jumped on the train about 8 months late after it had been out, 7 months later, and was in catch-up mode a little bit. And I tried out Teak for a little bit. And as usual, the TLPs don't really do it for me. I did it mainly because the Fezzelwigs forum guy, Fez, he plays on there once a week. And I was like, it'd be really neat to kind of group with him, but it never really happened because I wasn't able to keep up, to get my levels up high enough. I chose to use a shaman because of the True Box rules they have there. I figured, well, maybe there would be a little bit more grouping. Maybe not. I don't know. It is TLP. There's a lot of greed that goes on, a lot of jackassery and stuff. And sure enough, yeah, there was a good amount, but I went on there late enough that all the tryhards, they were on to some newer gear, and me being in a newbie zone, I actually got lucky enough with my shaman, Ixar shaman, that I got passed down some stuff that was like raid loot, or really high quality stuff from the original game and everything. So that they didn't need any more. They'd already upgraded. They were just giving out to newbies in the zone. I was the only shaman in the zone. This shaman dude came up and just loaded me down with all kinds of crap that, so I twinked. I was like, wow, this is awesome. Then I went, and after a little while, what did I do? I let somebody in South Karana know where, whenever I happened to see the Pegasus and stuff, because I was at the Aviac village, or what we used to call on Kazakh Thule server, we used to call it the KFC, because they're like chickens. It's a joke. Anyway, so they I let him know. I saw Pegasus. I let him know. He came over. Was it Pegasus? It might have been the Cyclops. Anyway, Undead Cyclops, I think. Anyway, he needed it. I said, hey, I saw it. And I was like, hey, and I gave him a tell. He came over, he killed it. And he was like, hey, here's some money. And he gave me like 500 plat, which to a normie like me, I'm like, whoa, well, I guess I'm set for spell money and a little extra on the side. Awesome. So my level 24 shaman is set up pretty well. So if I want to go back to Teak after things settle down much, much later, maybe even in years from now, when they have mercs, maybe sooner than that. Usually, I think it's omens or so when the chrono farmers kind of just bail. Basically, after omens, that's when they start. Or is it when do they start the spell ranks? That might have been in omens. Anyway, when they start the spell ranks is usually when they start taking off, I guess. Populations go down. That server is a little special. It's got very similar rules to the FV server. So that could be different for Teak. I don't know. Anyway, back to off of that rambling and onto my original purpose here. There was a command for combat pets and a change in combat pets that didn't used to be true. Old school way of thinking for combat pets is that instead of 2 slots for earrings, you only had 1. You had 1 slot for wrist. Some of the character slots that you have 2 of, like wrist, fingers, and the earrings, pets only had 1 for, as far as I knew anyway. I mean, maybe I was wrong for a long time. I don't know. But back in the day, that's all it was. I don't know when they did it, but recently, I think it was when they made the inventory command changes. Maybe they gave them more slots. I don't know, to try to make it match the standard layout for a character. That would make sense to me as far as coding goes. It simplifies things a little bit. But so there you go. You got this command here, and there's a command that's pet inventory check. You can actually check what gear your pet has on it. I put it in a little macro so I could just hit a button whenever I, wanted to check and make sure stuff was on my pet that I gave it. Or it's really more of a kind of anal retentive kind of OCD thing. I mean, you're giving your pet gear, and if it's accepting it, you know it has it. But some people really want to know for sure. Anyway, so here we go. I'm going to hit it for my pet, and you can see what gear he has on it. And you can see by this list that he has 2 slots for a left and right ear, which is news to me. I'd be very surprised to learn that it's always been that case. But here, yeah. Then wrist item, which is visible, so you really have to kind of go with the summon gear. I'm not gonna. Well, I just use summon gear for that. Then what else? The fingers. I put a couple of drops that I've gotten that I keep myself pretty well stocked up with gear for my pet that I don't need. And the Merc gear I've come around to preferring over. This looks like a chest item, but it's actually a shoulder item. And this looks like a helmet kind of, but it's actually a shoulder item. I prefer these on my pet as opposed to these. Even though the AC is lower, for 2 reasons. Number one, these in my normal routine, I made a special effort to stock up on these, and it put me behind in upgrading my own gear a little bit. These drop like candy everywhere. The gear for Mercs. So yeah. Whether it's the shoulders, the neck item, or the earring item, those 3 slots, technically 4 because you have 2 slots for earring now. I'm using the Merc gear. I have some of these left over. I might just give them out to somebody that might need it for an alt, or just tribute these items. Probably I'll end up doing that probably. If nobody, I'll shout out for a little while, 15-20 minutes, nobody responds, I'll probably just tribute these and say screw it, because the X-Pac's been out for so long. There's not a whole lot I can do to help people, especially with as much boxing that goes on the CT server. Is a medium population server, and I'd say like 90% of that is boxers. And of those boxers, how many are automated? I don't know. I try to steer clear. I used to really let myself get hung up over boxers, and especially the botters, the auto boxers, or whatever you want to call them. And I've just come to the point where, like, you know what? Screw it. It's a losing battle. Picking my battle, and I choose not to fight that one. I don't care. They do their thing. I'll just try to be nice to everybody. And if somebody wants to group, they come to me for grouping, fine. Most of the time, unless I feel like they're trying to take advantage of me and just get free XP without doing anything. Which happens rarely with a Necro, unless it's, say, a Ranger. Sometimes they can't get along without somebody tanking. So, I don't know. If I just get a sense that somebody's taking advantage of me, I just dump them. And if they give me too much slip, then I just put them on ignore, and then I don't play for a few days. I try to steer clear. Usually, eventually they move on, then we just go our separate ways. That's the way it is. So that's the pet gear thing, and this is the pet gear command here, right? So as you can see, I put a lot of this other fancier stuff that really helps improve the pet. Even when my pet's tanking a rare, whether it's T1 or T2, he pretty rarely now goes below 90% health. Most of the time, especially on trash, he hardly ever goes below 100% health, really. Not very often. He's a lot tankier. When you can have two of these earrings, here I'll just use the clicks here. So the ear, I got two of these. They're both the grandiose thing, right? And you got a buttload of hit points, some greater AC than on the summon gear, and then a huge amount more attack and stuff. It used to be that the only stats pets cared about were AC and hit points and stats up to a point. Actually, I think it was just straight up stats. I don't think they had a cap, a soft cap or a hard cap on their stats, how high they could go. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, now it feels different though. It feels like my pet is using, because I've noticed an increase in some DPS and just general other things. Its spell, that this spell from the weapons, and this life tap spell I put on it every fight that does like 9,500 damage, and then it returns 400% of it as a life tap, and healing up to like 76,000, almost 77,000 hit points. It's a really nice life tap heal, man, and it does decent damage on top of what your weapon's doing. I mean, if you have a weapon proc that does damage. Anyway, and the head here, anything that's visible is all summon mage gear. The neck is merc gear, shoulders merc gear. The back is what you get from your, what's summoned with your pet. For Necros, this is the only thing that is summoned on your pet, and it comes from the pet earring. What level of pet earring you have. I have 26. I'm not sure why this skill of defense is 25. I am absolutely certain I was using this earring when I summoned this pet. I don't know if that's a bug or not. Could be. Who knows? Anyway, so this right here is that backslide I've told before, that more than likely it's just best to, even if you have a really nice back item, this 25% mitigation is incredibly hard to outdo with raw AC, and the stats are fairly minor in the grand scheme of stats, and it doesn't give any AC or hit points itself. People argue that this right here, if your pet earring is a low enough level, kind of like where mine is, maybe there are some back items that it'd be worth it to replace it with. But since there's no AC on this, any back item, even a low level back item, will override that, because the pet with armor, the pet only looks at the AC when it's determining what it wants to equip. That is still true. And with weapons, it is the delay, not the damage. It doesn't use the damage in its damage calculation for its hits at all. They did away with that a long, long time ago, as the damage in the weapons got crazier and crazier. There was probably a brief period where they were just whooping butt, and warriors and knights were like screaming, "Hey, the pets are too good," that type of thing. That happens every so often. Wrist is visible, so there's that. That's summoned. Hands visible, summoned. These are the weapons I use. Even though they are lore, your pets do not care if something is lore, whether or not it can use more than one. These are lore equipped. Pet don't care. It shows red because I can't use it. Okay? The merc gear is red because I'm not a merc. Pets don't care about class, and they don't care about lore. If the weapon has a low enough delay, it'll put it. For example, if I put a summoned weapon in here, I know the summoned weapons have a delay way less than 35. It'll replace these really nice weapons if I gave it summoned weapons or anything with a lower delay. All it looks at is delay. And then plus these got AC on them, which is nice, and a bunch of hit points. If you can afford to do it, I've gone a little bit back and forth. Generally, I'm like, it's not worth it to go through the trouble. I have not minded the trouble to go through to farm the gear I've farmed for my pet. All this stuff I planned on giving to my pet. All this stuff here in this bag and this bag here, and also these weapons here. These are the night weapons that I got that actually I prefer. For a while there I wasn't sure. So this weapon here has got the life draw or life tap proc on them. And the delay in these is 21, right? So actually, if I wanted to, I could put these in to my pet if I had a change of heart, or if I, for whatever reason, wanted to have more life taps than I already got from the buff I already give. Plus, life taps are just crazy with the Necro pets, man. Necro pets have a life tap. It's pretty weak, but it comes standard just with the pet itself. And then you also have this buff that I use. I prefer to use this than the rune spell because I've explained it before. It's just a set that I have this macro set up so it casts it when I send my pet into attack, and it's good to go. This is another, it's got this life tap proc, it's got the regular pet life tap proc. That's enough life tap procs. Okay, I prefer the when you got those procs going, and on top of the rune that you get right here, it's not much of a rune, but it'll absorb one hit, sometimes two actually, because of this buff you get on here from the Merc healer and stuff that reduces the damage by a certain percent. It absorbs 10%, right? And then anyway. And there's other damage. Any damage absorption you have on your pet, it makes the runes last longer, and as well as the pet rune that the pet it does itself. Look at this, man. Bats. It's awesome. It's new, and I got something else going on that I'm trying to stay in first person. Okay, it's not pet stuff. Okay, so, and I got these bands here. I got off of Shoru. I camped him a good long time. I had a buttload of these rings, and then I became aware that there were 2 ring slots now that you can fill. So boom, I got these in here, and that is a huge freaking difference, man. Huge difference. I feel like this pet is easily, there's just above. It's EM26, but it feels like it's 1 or 2 EM things higher, enhanced minion qualities or ratings higher than what it is. To me, I'm kind of a lowbie though, as far as I don't get raid loot ever, so I'm just very happy. The face is farmed, and at the end, I believe in the starting zone off a rare in there somewhere. I think it's one of the golems, maybe. I forget. I think it's in there. I got a bunch of those. Well, I got 5 of them anyway. That's enough for like 5 pets. It's plenty for a while. But if you use that and you don't have the haste face muzzle, we used to call them for the pet, then you have to have some kind of haste item, and that's in the waist slot. And I got these in there. I'll show you. Oh, it's a different one. I think I just got this 1 drop of this and I just used it. The procs, the defensive procs on these armors do not, the pet does not use them. as well as, of course, this one here where it's like a slow, this crippling slicer, whatever, that will not go off when a pet has it. They used to. I remember back in Empires of Canark and Ring of Scales, they used to be really good to put on a pet, especially if you're like a mage or something. You had no access to any kind of slow at all if you were soloing. Anyway, but still, it's got extra stats, and the haste is a lot better than what the muzzles have for the face slot, so it's better to put something in there. Anyway, this gear is fairly cheap depending on what your bank looks like. I would not spend any more than about $50K for any of this if you have to supplement whatever you farm. Most of these items here are common drops off of the rare mobs that they drop off of, so I would not worry about it. And these right here, it varies. As you can see, I'm a little behind in my ear slot, but I mean, this pet's gonna last a super long time until I get an upgraded focus. I very rarely die, and the pet hardly ever dies, because I'm into saving pet gear, especially when I put extra fancy gear on it. I do whatever I can to not only die, but also save my pet, which is weird to some necros that play to think about their pet like that, especially old timers. But that's every pet class. The pets are very important nowadays. So the necro pets are no longer disposable, and they're every bit as tanky as the air pet for the mage, or they're probably not quite as tanky as a Beast Lord pet. I don't know. It's a minute difference, and frankly, with all the life taps you can put on your pet, it probably evens out. Again, a lot of this stuff is just opinion. I don't parse stuff. It's how stuff feels to me, and that's what makes me feel happy. If I feel happy about my pet and he feels really strong and tough, I'm good. I don't need to know exactly what his DPS is happening or any kind of stuff like that. I'm doing enough to get to easily kill the rares I want to kill, to be able to get the upgrades I need, and then maybe go in some older zones to kind of goof around in, explore a little bit, have fun that way. That's usually later in the cycle of a X-Pack is when I just get bored and just start roaming around by myself. So I'm going to end it here pretty close. What I'm going to do though is that unfortunately you're not going to have the privilege of seeing the wonderful bat thing I got going on here around my tune. I'm actually a gnome, but I got this Mask of the Deceiver because I like dark elves, and I don't know. I'm not gonna switch again, and I like to have this buff to help us out a little bit more with mana regen. It's not a whole lot. It's like 20 points or something like that for mana regen, but every little bit helps. And that's tied with the Mask of the Deceiver because I've shown this before, but I'll show it again. My illusions, I have this that I don't know if it's still sold in the marketplace, but that's where I got it. Maybe there's something else in there, maybe something else better. I don't know. I don't really look at the marketplace that much. I've had this forever. It was like, what was it? $2.50, maybe $5 at the most. I don't know. I pay for a sub, so I'm sure I just used the regular coin that you have, like 500 you get free. Not really free because you're paying for a sub, but you know. Anyway, that stat is on any illusion I choose to use, and I almost always choose to use the Dark Elf illusion because you can mount with the Dark Elf illusion, and you cannot mount, as you can see, you cannot mount if you have some of the other illusions on, because this is an original race that you can mount. I like that option. But I'm making a pledge to play in first person from now on for as long as I feel I can. I used to play the first 4 years of the game's life. This is all I did was play in first person. It wasn't until I came back. See, I played from 99 to 2003. I took about a 5-year break. Then, for whatever reason, I came back, probably because of the Mercs. I think that's around the time in 2008 is when they came out with the Mercs, maybe. That enticed me. I came back and started playing various other characters. And by the time Terror of Velious came out, is when I made this Necro my main. Anyway, but back in 08, I started playing like everybody else, a lot of other people do, in third person. But the game wasn't really optimized to play like that intuitively anyway. People know how to get around it, and they play third person just fine now. But originally, the game was really meant to be played in first person. For immersion and stuff like that. The nerdy D&D reasons and stuff, because you're supposed to, seen as a D&D-like game, and you role play. I used to be in an all-dwarf guild called Clan Axbeak, and we would type out in sort of Scottish accents and act all dwarvish and have drunken races and just do whatever we could with just dwarf groups. So we'd have like warriors, paladins, and the only pure DPS we had available to us was rogues, and then of course we had clerics, no shamans or anything. We made do with that for the longest time, and then finally somebody's like, okay, let's break down, let gnomes in, at least they're sort of cousins to us, so we can get some wizards and some enchanters in here a little bit. And we started doing that. But for the longest time, when I was a member of Clan Axbeak, it was all just dwarves. And even after we would let the gnomes in, we didn't have that many gnomes part of the guild. It was still pretty much, if you're grouping around and stuff, you're just with dwarves. And it was kind of fun. People would look at us weird, and they'd, why are you doing that? And stuff like that. We'd act like we didn't know what they were talking about, and call the magic users, the people in our guild, we didn't trust magic users because we didn't trust their wiggly fingers and stuff. And it's just kind of fun to just play around like that in a very nerdy way. Kind of miss those days. But yeah, I'm rambling a lot, and this video is probably not going to be any shorter than any others, but it's mainly focused on that pet stuff that I discovered with that new list for the command. The command to show what's on your pet is pet inventory check right here. Okay, there's also a pet inventory delete command that has a modifier for it, so you could target certain things. I think they did that so that people could replace weapons. I'm pretty careful when I set up my pet, so I don't care about that. And I know how the pet decides what it puts on. I'm used to doing it like that, but when people make mistakes, they don't want to have to start over with summon a whole new pet and put a whole bunch of new stuff on it. So I get that too. They do what they do. So there's that. This is just a talking episode here. I'm at the end here in the newest X pack. And maybe the next video I put out, I'll have some fighting going on with me in first person, roaming around a little bit. It's it's kind of cool. I like this end. It looks really nice. And it's weird, but it also kind of feels cool to be in first person. I kind of like that too. I've been meaning to do this for some time now. As the last little bonus thing to sort of, is it advanced? Yeah, it is. Okay, this is proof that, is that it? No. What is it? Video modes. Did I just miss it? Oh yeah, here we go. It's at the top. Sorry. Card features. I play on a iMac, and this is an Apple M3 because that's the iMac version I have. And I use a thing called Crossover to help set up the wine environment to enables me to play this game. This is not considered a virtual machine. I have a translator on this computer that translates all the Windows files and stuff so that the Apple computer can execute and use all the files that the game needs to use. And it adds in like libraries and stuff that Windows uses for a lot of stuff here. This is not foolproof. I will do a video in the future also to depict some of the missing textures that I run across once in a while in the old zones. It's almost exclusively old zones. Is there anybody around here? It's usually with weapons. Looks like everybody, yeah, nobody's missing anything here. Yeah, the newer zones, all the textures work fine. But the older, more original zones, like the first several X-Packs, the weapons, like on and a lot of the effects for the epic weapons just shows up as a block around a sword or something because that texture is missing, or my computer doesn't know how to translate that yet. I think one day that's just going to all of a sudden be gone, and it'll do just fine. So I use Crossover. I'm done tinkering too much with computers. I'm too old for that. My tinkering days are over. I'm done. I don't want to pull a computer apart anymore. I don't want to have to replace stuff. I'm just done with that. I break stuff and I have to buy it. I have to buy new stuff, and it's a waste. I'm not doing it. So here we are. This is the third try of ending this video without any additional rambling, and I promise you I'm going to end it here. So you guys have a good one, and I'm not sure when I'll send up my next video, but it'll be sometime. I'm not sure. See if I can remember how to turn this off now. No. The video's going along. I don't edit anything ever, so how the heck did I... Oh. Shift Command 5 ought to bring it up. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I'm ending it. Have a good one. See you later.